Come and fly away with me. 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 Don't you be afraid, everything will change. You and I jumping off the edge. They say dreamers never die, so come.
The first breath I took in Muscat was warm and salted, carrying the scent of the Gulf and something older, an aroma I couldn't name at first, like sweet smoke lingering from another century. The horizon was a soft wash of gold and rose, the kind of light that makes you pause before even reaching for your suitcase. From the moment my feet touched Omani soil, I understood this was not a land to be hurried through. In the stillness of dawn, the city stirred gently. The call to prayer rose from unseen minarets, threading through the quiet streets and mingling with the hush of the waves along the corniche. Somewhere nearby, a fisherman's voice called out, the words low and familiar, as if speaking to the sea itself. As the morning grew brighter, I walked along the harbour. Wooden dhows floated side by side with sleek white yachts, like old and new greeting one another. The water shimmered, reflecting the ochre cliffs that cradle the city. Somewhere beyond those cliffs stretched the desert, vast, wind-shaped and whispering in its own language. And farther still, the mountains rose like a wall against the sky, their colours shifting with every hour of the day. I had come here for the landscapes, for the promise of unspoiled sands and stone villages that still keep their watch over mountain passes. But already I was falling for something deeper. The way Oman holds peace in its hands, offering it without fanfare, without trying to impress. It is simply here, waiting for those willing to listen. The breeze shifted, carrying with it a faint, briny scent and the creak of timber. Ahead lay the winding alleys of Muttra, where traders once sold goods brought in from Africa, India, and beyond. I could almost see the souk in my mind, the glow of brass lamps, the silver gleam of khan jars, the warm, resinous breath of frankincense curling toward wooden beams darkened by centuries of trade. But the call of the harbour was stronger. I wanted to hear the slap of water against hulls, to see the dhows that still remember the roots of their grandfathers. Because here, where sea meets stone, Oman's story truly begins. By the time the sun climbed high enough to light the harbour in full, the masts of the dhows were already casting long shadows over the water. Their sails were furled, their wooden hulls burnished by years of salt and sun. I stood at the edge of Mutra's port, watching men move with the slow precision of those whose work is older than memory, hauling crates, checking knots, calling out across the decks. These were not museum pieces, not staged remnants for a tourist's camera, but working vessels, living heirs to Oman's maritime soul. The scent of the sea here is never alone. It comes braided with the fragrance of frankincense from the nearby souk, where shopkeepers burn small charcoal discs in clay censers, sending tendrils of smoke curling into the air. I followed it into the heart of Mutra souk, where narrow alleys bend and branch like a river's delta. The wooden beams above are darkened by time, their carved edges softened by countless seasons of monsoon winds and desert dust. Inside, the air was thick with trade. Not just the buying and selling, but the very idea of it, centuries of barter and exchange condensed into the mingled scent of spices, polished wood, and incense. Stalls overflowed with mounds of saffron, cinnamon sticks tied with twine, and pyramids of dried limes. Beside them, brass coffee pots gleamed like captured sunlight, and trays of silver jewellery caught the flicker of lantern light. From here, the city stretches inland, folding into hills and guarded by cliffs the colour of old parchment. Somewhere beyond those cliffs lies a capital that wears both its history and its modern grace with quiet pride. My first full morning in the capital began with marble underfoot. The Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque rose ahead of me, its central dome gleaming like a pearl in the sunlight. From afar, it seems grand. Up close, it is humbling. White stone columns lined my path, their shadows stretching like long fingers across the courtyard. Inside, the prayer hall's vast Persian carpet, the size of a football field, rolled out in soft greens and blues, hand-woven over 4 years. Above it, a chandelier glittered with Swarovski crystals, each drop catching the light like frozen rain. The air smelled faintly of rosewater, and the only sounds were the shuffle of footsteps and the low murmur of guides explaining the mosque's story to visitors. The sun had barely begun its climb when I walked through the towering gates of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 Fort, its sandstone walls glowing in the soft amber light. It was time to trade the perfume of frankincense for the dry breath of the desert, and to listen to the language only the sands can speak. Wahiba Sands. Silence and starlight. I arrived in the Wahiba Sands just before sunset, when the day's heat was loosening its grip on the desert. The horizon shimmered in a honeyed haze, the dunes rolling endlessly into one another, like the folds of a vast golden quilt. The air smelled faintly of hot stone and dry grass. I stepped out, my feet sinking into the soft grains, and felt the coolness of the approaching night already whispering at the edges. In the city, we measure time in minutes and deadlines. Here, the desert measured it in shadows, in the slow deepening of colour as the sun slipped lower. The desert has a way of stripping away the noise in your mind, leaving only the truths you carry inside. For me, it was the reminder of how small I was in the grand weave of things, and yet, how connected. Every grain of sand beneath me, every star overhead, all part of the same story, told across millennia, lying back against the slope of the dune. The Milky Way spilled across the sky like powdered silver. Somewhere far off, a camel groaned, and the wind shifted, brushing past my ear as though carrying the voice of the desert itself. I tried to hold the moment in my memory, to take it back with me, knowing the city's lights would one day blur it at the edges. At dawn, the world was washed in pale silver. The dunes no longer looked golden, but a muted rose, their curves softened by the early light. Some journeys are measured in miles, others are measured in the weight they leave on your soul. This one was both. Now, the mountains promised water and whispers, mountains and wadis, Oman's hidden valleys. They say the mountains here do not merely rise, they remember. The first time I saw the jagged silhouettes of the 𝐻𝐻𝐽 Mountains, their peaks touched by the first blush of dawn, I felt as though I had stumbled into an old legend. When I boarded my first bus into Oman, I thought I was simply crossing a border. I didn't realise I was stepping into a place that would linger in me like a scent caught on the wind. Impossible to hold, yet impossible to forget. Now, as I prepare to leave, I see that Oman has worked its way under my skin, as quietly and naturally as the tide smooth the edges of a stone. I think of the mountains, still and watchful, as though they have been here since the first dawn and will remain long after I am gone. I think of the wadis, their waters moving with both urgency and patience, teaching me that beauty can be both fleeting and eternal. I think of the wind that carries the old Bedouin songs, sung in a language I do not know but somehow understand. Oman is not a country you simply visit. It is a story you walk into, one whose chapters are written in sand and stone, in spice and salt, in kindness freely given. And though your footprints will fade from its shores, the country leaves its own footprints inside you, in the way you breathe, the way you see, the way you dream. When I leave, I will carry Oman the way a shell carries the sound of the sea, quietly, constantly, faithfully. And perhaps, when I am far from here, I will close my eyes and feel the desert wind again, hear the laughter in the markets, taste the sweetness of dates shared under a palm's shade. Some places you forget as soon as you go. Oman is not one of them. It follows you, not as a shadow, but as a light, steady, warm, and impossibly alive. And if you are lucky, as I have been, you will find yourself returning, not to a place on a map, but to a feeling that calls you home.